On the air this morning with some riveting radio real estate, Don Pannell. And when you watch the video here, you'll see a slideshow going on for a new listing to talk about. Tell me more.
Yes, it is a cute little place. A brand new listing. Just listed it yesterday. It's out in Timberlakes, and it's across the street from the Little Lake, if you're familiar with that area at all. So kind of has a peekaboo view of the lake. You have to kind of stand on your tiptoes.
That's okay.
Look over there. But it's there. It's there. And Timberlakes is kind of neat because it has 2 lakes and several little community parks, and it also has saltwater access, which is kind of neat. The saltwater access is down by the Harstein Bridge on Pickering Passage, so it's a ways away from where Timberlakes is, but it's fenced off, and you have to be a member of the Timberlakes community to use it, and it's a place where you can launch your boat and have picnics,
and it's go fishing for salmon.
Yes,
so 2 lakes. How big is the whole Timberlakes property? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. It's good sized. Yeah, it's and it's been there for a long time. So there's a wide variety of housing stock there.
Nice.
This one is a double wide. It's a 1993. So we've talked a little bit about age of manufactured homes. You have to be a little careful, but this one is new enough that you shouldn't have any trouble finding financing for it. If it gets much beyond 40 years old or so, you sometimes run into problems. But this one is very well kept. It's smaller. It's only 1,100 and some square feet, but it's 3 bedrooms and 2 full bathrooms, which is kind of nice.
Oh, wow, that is nice.
Yeah, so two bathtubs, which is kind of nice.
It's needed.
Yeah, and it's that split floor plan where the master is on one side and the bedrooms are on the other side.
I love that.
And the lot I thought was really, really pretty. It's got a gorgeous front yard that's kind of got trees in it, and so it's set back a little bit from the road, so you feel kind of private there.
Nice.
And it's very pretty and flat, and then there's a good sized backyard as well. So it's almost it's a third of an acre almost.
It's a big honker of a tree there.
Yeah, there's a huge. I thought that was pretty cool. I had to take a picture of that. It's a big tree, and I have no idea what kind of tree it is, but it's pretty.
It's big. I think
Yeah. And then there's a little shed in the back, and so it's been recently painted. The roof is in good shape. So, $99,900. So good price.
Dues out there? They have dues?
Dues are like $18 a month.
Oh, okay.
So very reasonable, and that covers road maintenance and security and parks maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
Very affordable.
So, yes, and it's a nice place. It's I've known several people that have lived there, and it's a nice area.
Look at that.
Yeah, you can have that.
Check that out.
You
We
can have
got
that.
some other things to talk about. Last week we talked, 2 weeks ago we talked about the Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac, and those kind of things.
Right, and you ask a question, and I thought I kind of knew the answer, but I wanted to double check and make sure. And I did find in my trusty little textbook here, we talked about FHA, and FHA is a loan guarantee organization similar to VA and USDA. So they don't actually loan you the money; they guarantee the loan.
Okay.
So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Ginnie Mae are all secondary market people, and so they are the prominent secondary market agencies for FHA loans. So you get the loan from a local lender, it's guaranteed by FHA, and then Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or Ginnie Mae take it over, and they are the secondary market that actually manages the money part of it. So that's the distinction. It's kind of confusing a little bit. So, but there is a distinction. The important thing to remember is that if you have an FHA loan, that doesn't mean that FHA is giving you the money. They're just guaranteeing that you're going to pay the loan back.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's
a good
the
distinction.
that's
Good to have you around. to
Boy,
answer those
yeah.
types
If
of
I have any
questions.
questions.
Yes, I have my
right
trusty
here.
little
It's called
textbooks here, and
It's a big
look
book,
up
too.
the answer. Yeah.
All right, what letter are we on? G? Did
We-
we get to G yet?
We are on G.
G is
yes,
Forever.
yes, and G stands for good faith estimate. And this is a form used by lenders to give borrowers an estimate of the fees that are going to be due at closing. And it used to be called a loan estimate form. Then they called it a good faith estimate form. And now they call it a closing disclosure form. So so actually it's a C now, but on my little list it's G.
Goes back to G.
So yeah. So it's all the same thing though. So basically what you're looking for as a borrower, or as a buyer, is you want to know exactly what your costs are going to be from your lender. So
right.
things like how much are they going to charge you for your appraisal? How much are they going to charge you for closing costs, loan origination fees, that kind of stuff. So they have to be, it's like a 3 or 4 page form that the buyers will see probably several times in the course of the transaction, because as anything changes, then they have to redo the whole form.
Sure.
And so you'll have to sign, as a borrower, be prepared to sign it several times.
Okay.
And then, but it's good, because you're not, what was happening before they put these rules in place is that borrowers and buyers would show up at the signing for the house, and all of a sudden they'd have this sheet of paper in front of them with these fees that they had never seen before.
And these are different than closing costs and all that?
They're all included in the closing
Oh, okay.
costs,
So
yeah,
this is
but
all
it's all broken down as to what. So all of a sudden you're looking at a sizable chunk of change that you didn't really know what to expect or what it was going to be. So they put this in place, which I think is a good thing. I mean, it causes problems sometimes. It's just one more piece of paper that you have to look at, but it's good to know that, and to have it be spelled out.
Well, yeah, and you want to be ready for that, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You mentioned appraiser. Is that something that the lender or when you're getting all the paperwork, they're the ones that get the appraiser out there, or does the seller have any onus on that?
No, the seller has nothing to do with the appraisal, and actually the lender has nothing to do with the appraisal. It's a disinterested third party, which again is good, because you're not running the risk of having somebody in collusion with the people. So usually what happens is the lender will order the appraiser or the appraisal, usually from a company that has a whole list of them, and then they say when they're going to come out and do their thing, and then they do the appraisal, fill out all the paperwork, and then get it back to the lender, and then the lender can decide what they need to do from there, based on how it comes out. I mean, sometimes if it comes out low, then they'll have to go back to the seller and say, hey,
Is there a fee for the appraisal?
There absolutely is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's usually $500 or $600, depending on.
And is that the buyer paying?
That's
for
the
that?
buyer's.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's included in the buyer's closing costs. Typically, sometimes lenders will allow you to roll that into your overall loan amount, sometimes not.
Oh,
So
okay.
just depends on what your lender's regulations are. So
Interesting.
yeah, it used to, when I first started out in this, it used to really bug me that the first question an appraiser would ask is how much you want this home to appraise for, and I didn't think that was really the first question that should come out of their mouth.
Wow.
But they do see a copy of the purchase and sale agreement, so they know kind of what you're asking for the place. And so they have the report that you get is several pages long, and it goes through things like square footage, of course, and condition, and sometimes they will, even if the inspector has not called out things like the roof and things like that, sometimes the appraiser will. And especially for an FHA or a VA loan, and you can kind of understand that they have a vested interest in making sure that this property is worth what they're lending on it. So
That's smart.
Yeah. So if it has a bad roof, they're going to want the seller to fix that, so that if the buyer does default on the loan, they know that it's at least worth what they've loaned on it, so they can recoup their investment. So it's all about what their risk is in getting into this loan. So
Does the good faith paperwork, did that come about after the housing crash in '08, or is that a different result?
Well, it had something to do with that, certainly. There's been something like a good faith estimate in place for a long time. But the loan, what used to be called the loan estimate, was in 2015. Then the good faith estimate came about in 2000 something, and then now the CD.
They just got to change all the names all
I know.
the time.
They're the same thing, but
just
they're
to-
just
yeah,
changing the name.
just to keep you on your toes. Yeah.
Keep
So
it fresh.
as a buyer, you should expect to see something called a CD.
Okay.
And that is the closing disclosure statement. And you should expect to see it, within a couple weeks of signing. And so if you haven't, then make sure that you contact your agent and or your lender and say, okay, where is my CD? Because what also happens is that they've put a rule in place that there has to be 3 days between the time the buyer signs the CD and closing. So to give them time to
Check it out
to
and
look
everything.
at it and ask
okay,
questions
yeah.
and that kind of thing. So again, to avoid this getting there to sign your paperwork and being hit with things you didn't know about.
Yeah.
So if you expect to close at a certain time, make sure that you've seen your CD at least 3 days prior to that.
How do people get in touch with you, Don?
They can call me at 360-490-4493, or they can come and see me on the corner of 3rd and Railroad at the John L. Scott office. And again, if I'm not there, they'll know where I am.
Right up the street from here.
Right up the street. It's a nice, easy jaunt back over. All right, Don. Well, it was nice to see you today.
Good to see
and,
you.
And you'll be able to see pictures associated with that Timberlakes property when we post the interview here on the website. And that's,
Sounds like heaven.
It's
Hey.
a great
All the
spot.
water
hold on to that a little bit, Vicki. You never know.